Birthdays had always been my favorite kind of magic, the kind wrapped in laughter, small indulgences, and the warmth of being celebrated. But this one felt different, like the air itself was charged with a secret I couldn't name. My husband, Liam, had been restless for days, his usual calm edged with something I could only describe as anticipation. He'd catch me watching him, only to flash a crooked smile before vanishing into another room. I told myself it was just his way of planning something grand. A weekend escape, a candlelit dinner, maybe even a surprise concert for my favorite band. But deep down I knew this was something else. Something bigger. The morning started ordinary enough. Sunlight filtered through the blinds as Liam kissed me awake, his lips lingering longer than usual. "Happy birthday, beautiful," he murmured, his thumb brushing my cheekbone. His eyes held mine, dark and glinting with mischief, like he was guarding a treasure. I leaned into his touch, grinning. "What's the plan?" He kissed me again, slow and deliberate. "Patience," he whispered. "Tonight's going to be unforgettable." The day unfolded in teasing fragments. A text mid-morning, "You'll thank me later." A wink across the kitchen as he poured my coffee. A sudden phone call he took in the hallway, his voice low and urgent. I laughed it off, but my curiosity crackled like static. By dusk, my skin hummed with restless energy. "Dress up," he said finally, handing me a black envelope. Inside was a single instruction, something that leaves them wanting more. I raised an eyebrow. "Them?" His smile was infuriatingly cryptic. "Trust me." I chose a crimson dress, sleek, sleeveless, with a slit that whispered rather than shouted. It hugged my hips, daring the night to ask questions. As I fastened my earrings, the doorbell rang. Probably the florist, I thought, wiping a smudge of lipstick from my thumb. But when I opened the door, the world tilted. There stood Marcus, Liam's best friend. My friend too, though the word felt suddenly inadequate. He'd been in our lives for years, easygoing, quick to laugh, the kind of guy who could disarm a room with a joke. We'd shared holidays, road trips, inside jokes. Never anything more. Yet here he was, tonight of all nights, wearing a crisp shirt and a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Hey," he said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. His cologne, citrus and cedar, filled the hallway. Liam appeared, clapping Marcus on the back like they'd rehearsed it. "Happy birthday, love," he said, kissing my temple. His hand found the small of my back, guiding me toward the living room. The space was transformed. Candles bathed the walls in gold, their flames trembling in the still air. Jazz curled from the speakers, a sultry saxophone, low and intimate. But it wasn't the decor that made my breath hitch. It was the weight of their gazes. Marcus lounged on the couch, one ankle hooked over his knee. Liam stood close behind me, his fingers tracing the bare skin above my dress. "Surprise," he breathed, his lips grazing my ear. My pulse stuttered. The room seemed to shrink, the air thickening until it pressed against my lungs. Marcus didn't look away. There was no awkwardness, no apology in his posture, only a quiet certainty that made my stomach flip. Liam's hand slid down my arms, linking our fingers. "You're okay, right?" he asked, his voice a velvet thread. I nodded, though my mind raced. This wasn't a dinner. Not a getaway. This was a line we'd never discussed crossing, now blurred beyond recognition. And yet, my body betrayed me, leaning into Liam's touch, my gaze snaring with Marcus's. Liam kissed me then, deep and urgent, his tongue mapping the shape of my surprise. I melted, let myself drown in the familiarity of him, until Marcus stood, closing the distance. His presence was a new gravity. I felt him behind me before his hand settled on my waist, warm and deliberate. Liam's mouth stayed on mine, but his fingers drifted downward, skimming the curve of my hip, while Marcus's thumbs pressed circles into my spine. 2 rhythms, 2 beats, pulling me taut between them. "Breathe," Liam whispered, nipping my bottom lip. I hadn't realized I'd stopped. Their movements synced, fluid and practiced, as if they'd rehearsed this dance without me. Marcus's palms slid lower, cupping my thighs as Liam's teeth grazed my collarbone. A moan slipped out, raw, unfiltered, before I could cage it. "Do you trust us?" Liam asked, his breath hot against my neck. The question should have been a line in the sand. Instead, it ignited something reckless in me. I turned my head, seeking Marcus's mouth before logic could intervene. He kissed me like he'd been waiting years to taste me, his fingers tangling in my hair. Later, I'd wonder how it escalated so fast. How their touches became instinct. How their voices blended into a chorus that unraveled me. But in the moment there was only sensation. The rasp of fabric, the sting of nails, the way Liam's laughter vibrated against my skin when I gasped Marcus's name. Hours blurred. At some point the candles burned low, their wax pooling like liquid amber. I lost count of how many times they brought me undone, how many ways they found to worship my body. When it ended, I collapsed between them, their limbs tangled with mine like we'd always fit this way. Marcus kissed my shoulder, his stubble scratching my skin. Liam traced patterns on my thigh, his thumb a steady anchor. No words were needed. The silence hummed with something sacred. Morning came too soon. I woke to the scent of coffee and bacon. Liam humming in the kitchen. Marcus was gone. His absence a phantom weight on the bed. "You're up early," I said, padding into the room. He turned, handing me a mug. His eyes danced, the same mischievous spark from last night flickering there. "Happy birthday," he said, kissing me softly. I sipped the coffee, rich and sweet like him. "Best one yet," I admitted. He grinned, stealing another kiss. "Good. Because this is just the beginning." The words lingered as I sat down, my body sore in the best way. Promise. A warning. I didn't know what scared me more. That part of me had been waiting for this all along, or that I couldn't wait to see where it led next. But as the sunlight warmed my face, I let myself bask in the afterglow. Whatever this was, it was ours. And for now that was enough. The morning after hummed with a strange, quiet electricity. Liam stood at the stove, spatula in hand, humming along to the radio like we hadn't just rewritten the rules of our marriage. Sunlight spilled across his back, illuminating the faint scar on his shoulder. A relic from a childhood bike crash. He looked normal. Too normal. As if his hands hadn't been everywhere last night. As if his voice hadn't rasped my name while Marcus's mouth lingered on my throat. I wrapped myself in the robe he'd left draped over a chair, its cotton soft against my skin. "He left already?" I asked, nodding toward the empty coffee mug on the counter. Liam turned, eyes flicking to mine. "Early. Had a meeting." He flipped a pancake, the sizzle sharp in the quiet kitchen. "You okay?" I was. More than okay. My body thrummed with a lazy post-orgasmic glow. The kind that made every movement feel like wading through honey. But there was a question hovering between us, unspoken yet insistent. What now? I reached for the syrup, my fingers brushing his. "You're a terrible liar," I said lightly. His smile broke slow like sunlight through clouds. He wanted to give us space. He leaned in, planting a kiss on my forehead, his stubble grazing my skin. To process. To want more. I did want more. The admission startled me, curling in my chest like steam. Last night had been chaos and clarity fused together. A kaleidoscope of hands and mouths and trust so absolute it left me breathless. I'd spent years thinking I understood the boundaries of my marriage, only to discover how porous they were. And I wasn't afraid. I was hungry. The days that followed blurred into a haze of ordinary moments laced with extraordinary memories. We moved through our routines, grocery shopping, laundry, late-night Netflix binges, but everything felt charged, as if the air itself remembered what we'd done. At red lights, Liam's hand would drift to my thigh, fingers pressing just hard enough to make my pulse skip. In bed, he'd whisper, "Think about him?" And I'd bite his lip, nodding before dragging his mouth to mine. But it was the silence that spoke loudest. We didn't talk about Marcus by name, yet his presence lingered in every lingering glance, every half-finished sentence. Then a week later, as we sprawled on the couch after dinner, Liam's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, smirk tugging his lips. "Marcus," he said, as if reading my mind. "Says he's missing you." I froze, the words catching in my throat. Liam tilted my chin up, his gaze steady. "Did you like it?" My cheeks flushed, but I didn't look away. "You know I did." He kissed me then, slow and deliberate, his tongue tracing the shape of my confession. When he pulled back, his voice dropped, low and velvet. "What if I told you this isn't over?" A shiver raced down my spine. "Is that an invitation?" "Depends." His thumb brushed my bottom lip. "Do you want it to be?" The answer came before I could censor it. Yes. The word hung between us, seismic. Liam's grin turned feral. Good. Because he's already planning the next one. The second time felt less like an experiment and more like a homecoming. We didn't wait for a holiday or a milestone. This was just Tuesday, the sky bruised purple with dusk, the city humming outside our windows. I dressed slowly, letting the anticipation coil in my belly. A black lace bodysuit this time, back-zipped and suffocatingly tight, paired with heels that made my legs tremble. Liam watched, sipping whiskey as I adjusted the straps. "You're trying to kill me," he muttered, but his eyes darkened with approval. Marcus arrived without fanfare. No greetings, no awkward smiles. He stepped inside, shrugged off his coat, and met my gaze like we'd never left the room that night. "You look beautiful," he said, voice rougher than I remembered. Liam closed the door behind him, sealing us in our little sanctum. The air thickened instantly, charged with the weight of what we were doing. They let me choose the pace this time. I hesitated only once, when Marcus's fingers brushed my wrist, his touch warmer than I expected. And Liam was there, his palm steady on my lower back. "Breathe," he reminded me, the same whisper from before. But this time I didn't need the prompt. Their movements synced like a well-rehearsed symphony. Liam's kisses were fire, urgent and possessive, while Marcus's hands roamed slower, mapping the terrain he'd only glimpsed last time. They traded spaces, switching roles with a fluidity that should have unnerved me. Instead, it felt inevitable. Later, when Marcus knelt between my thighs and Liam bit my shoulder to stifle my cry, I realized the truth. This wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a phase. It was a language we'd learned overnight, and now we were fluent. Afterward, as we lay tangled in sweat-slick sheets, Marcus traced circles on my hip. "You're smiling," he noted, amused. I was, wide and unapologetic. "Because this isn't scary anymore." Liam kissed my temple, his chuckle a rumble against my skin. "It's supposed to be a little scary. But it's not." I turned to face him, my heart full of something dangerous and bright. "It's just more." Marcus laughed then, soft and warm, and Liam whispered, "More, like a prayer." Outside, the city slept on, oblivious. But in here the world had shifted. And I was ready to see how far it could tilt. The first time was a shock. The second was a revelation. By the third, it felt like breathing. We fell into a rhythm that shouldn't have made sense. Three people tangled in something fragile and electric, yet seamless. Marcus became a shadow we welcomed, his presence no longer an intrusion but a pulse in our routine. He'd arrive unannounced, his knock a familiar rhythm on the door. Sometimes he'd bring wine. Other times he'd say nothing at all. Just step inside and let the silence thicken until Liam's hands found me, or mine found him. But it wasn't all heat and hunger. There were moments that caught me off guard, soft, dangerous moments that made my chest ache. Like the night Marcus brushed my hair from my face after Liam had kissed me raw, his thumb lingering on my cheekbone as if he had the right. Or when Liam laughed at a joke Marcus made, their eyes meeting over my body like I was the thread stitching their friendship tighter. We didn't talk about what this meant. We didn't need to, or so I told myself. But questions began to pool in the corners of my mind, unspoken yet insistent. Did Marcus feel it too, the way this was becoming less about sex and more about something I couldn't name? Did Liam see the way Marcus watched me when he thought I wasn't looking? Did he care? The cracks started small. One evening, as we lay tangled in the aftermath of something slow and aching, Marcus rolled onto his side, tracing the curve of my spine with his fingertip. "You're different," he murmured. Liam, half asleep beside me, hummed, "She's always different." No, Marcus's voice was quieter now, almost reverent. Better start. I froze. Better than what? Than the nights he'd spent alone? Than the women who came before? The thought unsettled me, but I laughed it off, pressing a kiss to Liam's shoulder. "He's just saying that because he's tired." Marcus didn't correct me. Later, when Liam dozed off and Marcus slipped into the shower, I stared at the ceiling, the water's rush filling the silence. Better. The word clung to me, sharp and sweet like a bruise. Was that what this was? A game of comparison? A way for them to measure what they could take from me? But when Marcus emerged, steam curling around him, and pulled me into bed, his mouth finding mine with a tenderness that made my ribs creak, I let the doubt dissolve. It was easier that way. The first real fissure came a month later, on a rainy Tuesday. Liam had been distant all week, distracted by work deadlines and late-night calls that ended abruptly when I walked into the room. When Marcus arrived that evening, Liam barely looked up from his laptop. "Hey," he said, not glancing away from the screen. "Take care of her for me?" Marcus smiled, slow and unreadable. "Always." The words should have thrilled me. Instead they prickled. We waited until Liam retreated to his office, the door clicking shut behind him. Then Marcus turned to me, his grin fading. "You okay?" I nodded too quickly. Why wouldn't I be? He studied me, his fingers drumming against the armrest. "You tell me." The rain tapped the windows like a secret. I crossed the room leaning into him, but he didn't pull me close. "Not yet." "Is this?" I hesitated. "Is this just a thing for him?" "For you." Marcus's breath hitched just once. "What do you mean?" I swallowed the question sharper now. "Do you want it to be more?" For a heartbeat he didn't answer. Then he cupped my face, his palms rougher than Liam's, his touch deliberate. "Does it matter?" It shouldn't have. But it did. When he kissed me it was different, hungrier, desperate in a way that made my stomach twist. His hands gripped my hips, anchoring me to him as if he could erase the doubt with pressure alone. And for a while it worked. Until I heard the office door creak open. Liam stood there, silhouette dark against the hallway light. His gaze locked onto us, and for the first time, I saw something flicker in his eyes that didn't belong, something jagged, possessive. Marcus pulled away, but it was too late. "Everything okay?" Liam asked, voice deceptively casual. I nodded, my throat tight. "Just waiting for you." His smile didn't reach his eyes. Right. He didn't join us that night. The next morning he was gone before I woke. No note, no text. Marcus sent a single message. "Don't overthink it." But I did. I replayed every glance, every touch, every half-finished sentence. Had Liam seen the way Marcus held me? Had he noticed the way my breath caught when Marcus whispered things Liam never did? Asterisk, "You're mine too." Asterisk or asterisk. "You want this with me, don't you?" Asterisk, words that blurred the line between invitation and claim. When Liam finally came home, his arms were full of peonies, their petals blushing pink and fragile. "I'm sorry," he said, setting them on the counter. "I got caught up. I didn't ask where he'd gone. I didn't mention the distance in his voice or the way he'd watched us like a stranger. Instead, I kissed him, searching for the taste of certainty." He kissed back, but his hands stayed at his sides. That night Marcus didn't come. Days passed in a haze of unspoken tension. We fell into routines, but the spark had dimmed. Liam grew quiet, his touches fleeting. When I brought it up, he shrugged. "Maybe we need to slow down." The words gutted me. "You don't want this anymore?" "I want you." His gaze was steady, but his jaw clenched. I don't know what this is with him." A choice. The word hung between us, unsaid but screaming. And for the first time I wondered if I'd already made it. Marcus called that weekend. "He's pulling back," he said, no greeting. I paced our bedroom, the phone burning against my ear. "He's scared." "So are you." Silence stretched. Then quieter. "I don't want to lose you." The admission startled me. "Marcus." "I'm not him," he interrupted. "I know that. But I'm here. I've been here." My throat tightened. "What are you asking?" A beat. "Ask me to stay." The line went dead before I could answer. That night I watched Liam sleep, his face slack with exhaustion. I traced the scar on his shoulder, the one I'd always loved, and wondered when I'd started seeing it as a boundary instead of a map. When the doorbell rang at 3 a.m., neither of us pretended it was a surprise. Marcus stood there, rain soaking his coat, his eyes locked on mine. "I need to know," he said. "Are we done?" Liam appeared behind me, his hand finding mine. "She'll tell you," he said, voice hollow. I looked between them, the man who'd given me a new language of desire, and the man who'd taught me how to speak it, and realized the truth. There was no undoing this, only moving forward. So I opened the door and let him in. The door clicked shut behind Marcus, the sound louder than it should have been. Rain clung to his coat, darkening the fabric, his hair damp and curling at the edges. He didn't take his eyes off mine, Not even when Liam stepped forward, his jaw tight, shoulders rigid. You sure about this? Liam asked, his voice low, edged with something raw. I looked at him, really looked. His hands were fists at his sides, his knuckles white. He wasn't just asking me. He was asking Marcus. Marcus inhaled sharply, like he'd been waiting years to say it. Yeah, he said. I'm sure. Liam's gaze flicked to mine, searching. I nodded, my throat too tight to speak. And just like that, the dam broke. We sat on the couch, the three of us, the air thick with the weight of unsaid words. Marcus perched on the edge, elbows on his knees, while Liam leaned against the armrest, his leg bouncing restlessly. I stayed in the middle, the axis around which everything turned. Talk to me, I said finally, my voice steadier than I felt. Liam exhaled, running a hand through his hair. I don't know what I'm supposed to say. That you're scared, Marcus cut in sharp. That you're wondering if this means you're losing her. Liam's head snapped toward him, his eyes narrowing. You think I'm worried about losing her? Jesus, Marcus, this isn't a competition. It feels like one. Marcus's voice was quieter now, almost bitter. Feels like you're holding her back. Like you're waiting for her to choose. I'm not holding her back, Liam snapped. I'm trying to figure out how the hell we're all supposed to exist in this mess without breaking. I pressed my palms to my temples, the noise of their voices spiraling. Stop. They both fell silent. I looked at Marcus first. You're not a mistake, I said, soft but firm. You're not a secret. You're here because I want you here. Then at Liam. And you're the one who brought us together. You gave me this. I swallowed. I'm not going to apologize for wanting more. Marcus's shoulder brushed mine, hesitant. Liam stared at the floor. What happens next? He asked quietly. I hesitated. That depends. Do you still want me? His head snapped up, eyes blazing. Of course I do. Then stop acting like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. I turned to Marcus, my pulse hammering. Both of you. This isn't a game. It's not about who gets to stay. It's about us. All of us. Marcus's breath hitched. Liam's hand found mine, his grip fierce. We don't have to have all the answers tonight, I said, softer now. But we have to stop pretending this is temporary. Because it's not. The next few weeks were a negotiation of space and silence. We stumbled often. There were nights Liam would retreat into himself, watching Marcus touch me like he was memorizing the shape of what he'd nearly lost. Moments when Marcus would linger too long on my skin, as if testing how far Liam would let him go. And me? I became the bridge between them, the thread stitching their rivalry into something resembling trust. But we talked. We argued, yes. Voices rose, tempers flared. But we also laughed, tangled in bed, our limbs heavy with exhaustion and something dangerously close to peace. Marcus taught Liam how to let go of the jealousy without erasing it. Liam reminded Marcus that I wasn't a prize to be earned. And I learned to stop second-guessing the hunger in my bones, the way my body lit up for both of them, how my heart could hold them both. One night, as we lay sprawled across the sheets, Liam traced circles on my back, his voice rough with sleep. You ever think about what life would be like if I'd just taken you out to dinner that night? Marcus snorted. You'd still be boring. Liam threw a pillow at him and I laughed, the sound warm and easy. We'd still be us, I said, quieter now. Just smaller. Liam's hand stilled. You regret it? I turned my head, meeting his gaze. Never. Marcus kissed my shoulder, his stubble scratching my skin. Good. Because this is better. It was. Not perfect. Never simple. But better. A year later, we celebrated my birthday the same way. Candles, music, the weight of anticipation thick enough to taste. But this time there were no surprises. Only certainty. Liam kissed me slow, his hand steady on my waist. Marcus pulled me backward, his mouth finding the curve of my neck. They moved together now, fluid and practiced, as if they'd always known how to share me. Later, as we collapsed in a tangle of sweat and laughter, Liam pressed a kiss to my temple. Happy birthday, love. Marcus hummed against my skin. Best one yet. I smiled, my fingers weaving through both of theirs. Just the beginning. And it was. Because this wasn't a detour in our marriage. It wasn't a fluke or a phase. It was a new language spoken in touches and trust. in the quiet understanding that love isn't a line, it's a circle. And we'd already stepped inside,